There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Story Studio podcast. Sean actually stopped us within 30 seconds of us joining the thing. And that never happens. Usually it's like we get in and then I'm trying to okay, let's maybe start the show. And they're still bullshitting. But this time it was like, save it for get on the air because we can't save it.
Well, Dave has been hating on, let me just read one.
Wait. What? We have to say what it is that we're doing.
Oh, okay. Well, today is one of those shows, and we're going to do more of these because I think they're lively and fun, where we watch something and then talk about it. Oh,
this is where we said they say the spoilers.
Yeah, there will for sure be a ton of spoilers.
It fucking matters.
I already know the next thing that we're going to watch, and Dave's going to be super excited about that. And
let's not tell anybody what we did watch and what there's going to be spoilers.
No. But for this first one, Dave had to watch a movie. Dave had to watch a movie that he's been hating on for a long, long time. I think he had one aborted attempt at watching this movie. Finally made it through this one. It's Being John Malkovich. All right. And yesterday, let me see if I can find his glorious tweet.
Spoilers for Being John Malkovich. We're going to spoil the fuck out of which Dave thinks is like spoiling meat that's been sitting out for 6 years.
How can you spoil something nobody cares about?
Here it is. I am halfway through that fucking movie. I hate it even more now than I did.
So he stopped halfway through the movie to send this.
Right. I'll wait to read the notes until I'm done with it. I was this fucking close to turning it off when he pulled the gun on his girlfriend. Just ugh. I hate everybody in this movie. I hate the director. I hate
to be fair, I don't hate the actors. I hated the characters.
I hate the film it was filmed on.
Yes. Don't you hate the characters, the actors for having the poor judgment to be in the movie?
No, I can never hate on an actor for, taking a role.
All right.
Unless it's glorifying.
Just a writer for selling the script.
Does everybody from the studio who wants to hop in on the conversation have a link to do so?
No, I don't even hate Charlie Kaufman. I just hate that people jizz all over themselves when you say his name like he's made anything good.
I don't think that's true. Do you think that's true, Sean? That people are singing?
No,
Charlie
he's
Kaufman's
a poor screenwriter. In fact, I read an interview with him where he's like sick of hearing things that are like, it's Charlie Kaufman-esque. He's like, why can't I get a Charlie Kaufman movie made? Right? So no, people do not jizz all over Charlie Kaufman.
It's just you then, I guess.
I think his genius as a writer is recognized. And I do find, actually, this is not an exploration of Being John Malkovich. This episode to me should be titled, Yet Another Reason I Feel So Sorry for Dave. Because it's sad.
It's a long list.
Yeah, it's sad. It's just so sad that you, even if this isn't your cup of tea, that you cannot acknowledge.
I will acknowledge what I liked about the movie. Give me fucking credit.
All right. Let's
just begin.
Well, and I would even go so far as to say you don't have to acknowledge that you liked anything in the movie. But then
there were a few things I liked.
But even if there weren't, it's like I acknowledge the director's guts or something.
It's also on me.
Wait, Johnny.
I don't have that taste.
Okay, Johnny. How do we get? I know Bonnie wants to hop on. So,
is everyone going to say?
I don't fucking know. Why would I know that?
We need a link for her. Okay.
Is this going to be an ambush on me?
No, and in fact, what sucks too is I was really looking forward to Joel being on the show.
Oh, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, he can't. He had an emergency.
Wait, does Joel disagree with me?
No, I think Joel's actually a perfect foil here because I think he doesn't like the movie.
Oh, okay.
But would
There's
be
a
able.
bear outside here. If you want me to get him in instead.
Okay,
bear probably write a better movie.
One of those Russian circus bears. Instead of riding on a beach ball, it writes movies.
Beach ball rides you.
In Soviet Russia.
All right, I just gave Bonnie a link that may or may not work. So before we get into it, do you guys have anything cool?
I have a very, very belated cool. I actually, I finally started watching Better Call Saul. So that's cool that I started it.
They just the most recent season on Netflix.
I just added it to my list a couple of days
Punisher
ago.
lost me. I was just like, it's cool what he does, but it takes him too damn long. And
I couldn't get. I Punisher was one of my favorite comics growing up, but
I like the show. But like all Netflix Marvel shows, 2 or 3 episodes too long. That's the only problem.
So I moved over to Better Call Saul. So that's my something cool.
I started watching Mindhunter season 2.
Oh, I saw that.
I love it. It's a shame because now apparently David Fincher is going to do something else for Netflix, and season 3 is in limbo. And whatever, he was supposed to go season 5, but he basically said, well, it wouldn't be fair to like have the cast and crew and everybody hanging around, so y'all could take other work. So that means that ain't gonna happen. That show's done.
I totally disagree with what you're saying.
That's what the fucking articles say.
I read the same article or similar articles. I just saw different subtext than you did, which
the show's over.
No surprising because you're like so fucking pessimistic. It's crazy.
They said the article said kiss this show goodbye.
No. Okay, well then that was the article's pessimistic view. That's not what David Fincher has.
I'm really, really curious what Sean got out of it because I know nothing here and I'm trying to figure out how an article that says kiss the show goodbye could be interpreted another way.
Because it's an opinion, dude. So basically what David Fincher has an open door with Netflix. He has a bunch of stuff under
but if you can't lock your cast and crew down, they're done. That show's over.
That's look at who the cast and crew of that show is. There's no one in there like flooding offers. He said that because that was the PR thing. That was a very PR article, dude. You used to be a journalist. What the hell? You can't
Netflix releases cast, but show not canceled.
Right. The show is not canceled. David Fincher was like,
it's canceled. It's done.
Here's what actually happened.
So Dave, the term you're looking for is as good as dead.
And I'm also a journalist, so I can read between the lines. And between the lines, Netflix is saying, we released season 2. Nobody fucking watched it. It's done.
No, absolutely not. Between the lines, they're saying, David Fincher, you need to agree to a season 3 or not. And he's like, don't fucking push me. I'll do it when I'm ready. But I'm not holding actors to it. I think David Fincher absolutely wants to do it, and Netflix will do whatever David Fincher wants to, but he's not going to play Netflix's game and commit to it right now because he's got several other things. The same exact thing happened to Love, Death, and Robots, which just got announced for a season 2. Yeah. So David Fincher has a very long history of not following through on projects and then circling back, a long time.
Well, I hope they don't wait too damn long. Because I like the actors in that show a lot.
They said the same thing with season 2. There was no season 2 until there was suddenly a season 2, and it came out 2.5 years later.
Now
they you guys argue this, I got to grab something.
Well, they did. So I'm guessing, because I haven't finished it yet, but I'm guessing BTK is not wrapped up here because it takes he's caught much later in the timeline. So I'm guessing the thing that they've been teasing now for 2 seasons, it has to come to fruition. Otherwise, it's just one big fucking tease.
Yes, I agree. And even if there is no season 3, season 2 is exceptional. It's totally worth watching.
Yeah, it's
I feel like
only to The Wire and Homicide. So.
Yeah, it is really, really good. And
I already know like most of the stuff about the actual case because that's one of the few true crime books I've read.
Yeah, I believe that there will be a season 3 because I believe that's important to David Fincher, and I think that you're wrong about.
He says he wants to do 5. Well, I'm skeptical because so many shows I like get canceled.
I get it, dude.
All the fucking time. No matter who it is, like bigger names than David Fincher get canceled.
I totally get it. But you gotta realize Fincher has been with Netflix from the very beginning. House of Cards is his. Right, he has a really good relationship with them, and I think that they were probably they like to lock things down, and they're not afraid of canceling. And David Fincher is a stubborn fucker. So David Fincher was actually in.
I don't know much about him. So
he was in Being John Malkovich. He was the guy?
There were some weird cameos.
Which guy was he?
He was the guy, the reporter who was announcing about Malkovich's genius as a puppeteer.
Okay, yeah.
But there were a bunch of people in this movie, maybe we're going toward the topic now, who it was Brad Pitt, where he just gets a reaction shot. He just looks and then the camera goes away.
Yeah, it was awesome. Okay, so I still need to figure out a way to get Bonnie in here, but my something cool real quick is a show called The Pharmacist, which I actually haven't finished. It's a true crime documentary series on Netflix, and I only saw the first 2 episodes, but it's really, really good. And the first episode isn't anything like I expected, because the trailer shows this guy. He's like a maybe late 60s pharmacist, and he starts talking about how he was in just outside New Orleans, in this little place called St. Bernard Parish, which is really just crime infested, really lower class. And he started noticing, this is in the year 2000, all these opioid prescriptions coming in for Oxy, and he just did this whole like this investigation. He was feeding information to the FBI and to the DEA, and they were both telling him to shut the fuck up and go away. But I knew that was what was going to be happening. But the actual show, the first episode, is all about how his son went down to New Orleans and got murdered while trying to buy drugs. And he actually hunted down, because the police were corrupt, so he hunted down his son's killer and brought him to justice. And then at that point, he was just like a bulldog. He's like, I could take the whole pharmaceutical industry down. And the guy is just crazy and ballsy. And anyway, it's really interesting. Dave, I think you would like it, because I think you have a kindred spirit in this guy. He records everybody he's talking to, everybody. And there's this like great scene in last night's episode where he's talking to a guy at the FBI, and he goes, "Are you recording this again?" And the pharmacist straight up says, "No." But
well, depending on the state he's in, that could be a lie. I mean, that could
right.
be what do you call it? Illegal.
Yeah.
So Dave, start shitting.
Oh no, I shouldn't shit. Sean should talk about how great this movie is and why it's like one of the best movies God ever.
Hold on. As somebody, as
from his loins.
Clearly the middle opinion here. I did like it. I did like Being John Malkovich, but I don't think I'm as fervently passionate about it as Sean is. So I'll act as the guy in the middle who's new to it. You guys had both either watched or watched parts of it before.
I watched part of it before and couldn't get through it.
And this,
okay. Also, let's keep in mind that this is 20 years old. So there's a lot of things that like Kaufman style storytelling has been introduced. People have copied it a little.
That doesn't change my opinion of this.
Well,
right. But as far as like Johnny not being as wowed over by it as he might have been in 1999, when it's like, this is a very fresh voice 20 years ago.
Well, no. Now, give me a little more credit than that. It's not that it's dated and that's the reason that I'm hedging my bets. I don't know. Like, I did really like it. I did. But I'm not like, in Dave's mind, you're like bowing down to it and stuff. So I'm kind of new to it. But here's what I said this in Slack. I said it to Dave before we started. But I feel like once you understand what it is or aspires to be or whatever, then I think that adjustment is required for this movie more than a lot of others, for me anyway. So like I went in knowing like I'd seen Eternal Sunshine, which by the way, this had some of that in it, which I thought was interesting.
I like that movie.
Eternal Sunshine. I had seen Adaptation. And so I knew that he just kind of does weird, crazy stuff. And like Adaptation, for those of you who don't know, it's like this meta story about adaptation. So he's talking about, you just got to have a car chase in the third act. And then there's a car chase in the third act of the real movie. So like, I really like some of the stuff he's doing. And so I looked at it through that lens and just thought it was really kind of cool and interesting and weird and quirky, which were probably all the same things that made Dave hate it.
I would be willing to watch Adaptation again, just because I might appreciate it now more as a storyteller, but yeah, not this one.
Dude, but that's the thing. You should appreciate this as a storyteller. I've seen it probably 10 times.
Well, when you hear why I don't like it,
I'm ready. I'm ready. But I will frame this by just saying, in my time knowing you, I feel that you have missed out on some really amazing stories because you decide I don't know how to. It's like what Johnny says. I don't know how to accept that.
I went into it wanting to like it. And when it opened up, because 20 years ago I saw the beginning and I forgot why I didn't like it. So
it opens up like my original thing for The Beam, where you're just like, you can't get into that opening because it's
no, that's not what annoyed
on stage. What the hell? These are puppets.
Well, that did annoy me. I hate fucking puppets. But what annoyed me was the scene in the office when he first goes to the 7.5 floor. Okay, there's two things about it that annoy me. One,
it said it's pleased with itself, and you hate shit that's pleased with itself.
I do hate shit that's pleased with itself. Also, I hate just how stupid it is for the point of just being weird for the sake of weirdness. Also, thirdly, I am very claustrophobic, and I don't like looking at that. I don't like looking at that. That is so hard.
That's the first thing you said that's legit. Because, dude, Charlie Kaufman does not do things just to be weird, and neither does Spike Jonze. Spike Jonze is a very visual storyteller, and there's
I'll disagree with you on Spike Jonze.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Like the dance sequence or when John Malkovich was doing the dance thing, that was weird. That was just showing off. For the sake of showing
I'm gonna pass this straight to Bonnie, which is right here. Bonnie, what is the purpose of the dance sequence? And by the way, everyone, Bonnie has now joined us.
Give some context for the dance sequence first. So set it up for somebody who maybe didn't watch it fresh or didn't care and is watching.
I know what the point was. It was just stupidly done.
But why is it? But your whole point is that he just does weird to be weird.
Explain the dance scene. Explain the dance scene. Explain what it is, and then before we pass it to Bonnie.
Okay, so the premise of let me quickly go through Being John Malkovich so we're all on the same page for people who have not seen this weird ass movie. It is weird. I totally agree with Dave.
I have an interpretation for once everybody's spoken.
And by the way, I like some weird ass movies, and maybe I'm going to make you all watch those.
I will watch some of them. Will be hard to find.
Those movies aren't pleased with themselves at all, though.
Yes,
they hate themselves like a good movie should.
Okay, all right. So that is legit, the claustrophobia. I totally do get that. Okay, so the premise is there's this guy, his name's Craig, and he's a real sad sack John Cusack, which I feel like Charlie Kaufman characters, you never like them. They're not people you want to hang out with.
And that's the other part. I hated everybody in this fucking movie.
They all hate themselves too. That's
despicable.
Yes, they all hate themselves. That's part
every
of the comedy.
One of them was a fucking monster.
Dude,
they should all be lined up on a wall and shot.
But that's what makes the humor work. This is funnier than most comedies, and I think you were taking humor as
it's so hard for me to say right now what I wanted to say before, but I want to make sure we make it to Bonnie.
Okay, all right.
Because she's so loud, she'll just like poke in there. Motherfucker, step aside.
She is belligerent. Okay, so Craig, he's a puppeteer, which is like the most loser profession in the world. Dave's right. I get,
especially as a profession.
Right, and he's he's coming out with like there's this awesome thing where this little girl's watching his performance and he's making
that I laughed at.
He's laughing. But it's not just that, and then the guy's reaction, and then he punches John Cusack in the face. But then when you meet Cameron Diaz in the
because he's making the puppets fuck.
Right.
I'm trying to insert for people who haven't seen the movie.
This little girl walks away from her father on a busy New York street, and she's watching the puppet show. And John Cusack,
they're like rubbing up against the wall or something.
Yeah, he's oblivious to the fact that a child's watching because he's so enraptured with his own art, and he's having the puppets like kind of just fucking grind and stuff, and then the father looks and sees that the daughter what she's watching, and he's like calls the guy a pervert and punches him.
And so he comes in with like a bloody lip, and he walks in, and this is where you're introduced to his wife, and she says again, right? And you just know that this happens all the time. And there's just a lot of very knowing, funny moments in the movie. Cameron Diaz is unrecognizable. I was actually watching this movie for 20 minutes the first time I saw it before I realized I was watching Cameron Diaz, because this is the same vintage as where she was playing a little sex symbol in Charlie's
The Mask or something.
Yeah. And here she's got her face is always dirty and oily, and she's got frizzy hair, and she wears cat sweaters.
She's got Rosanna Dana hair.
Yeah, she totally does. So anyway, Craig gets a job because he finally needs to, do something, and he gets a job where he needs really fast hands. He works in this 7.5 floor in this building, which is ridiculous, but that's because they need a place where the portal is. They find a portal that actually gets you into John Malkovich's head for 15 minutes. Okay, so because he's a master puppeteer,
it's currently John Malkovich's head.
Right. It's
a portal. It shifts between hosts.
And so
every 44 years, apparently.
Had they done this movie in a different way, I could have enjoyed it, because
okay. I gotta say what I'm gonna say, because you guys are gonna trip right around it. So I feel like this movie has an accent, and this is what I mean by this. So maybe accent isn't the right word, But like Stephen,
like a vomity aftertaste.
Well, so Stephen King, I feel like has a different, like when he's writing the words that I really enjoy and really getting into, he's picturing something else in his head. And when he's in charge of his own visuals and makes his own movies, that's what you see. And I don't like that. Like I like my interpretation of his words, not his interpretation of his words visually. And I feel like this movie was the same, because I feel like what you were about to say, Dave, was, you said done in a different way, it could have been different, is I feel like if you go through, okay, they go into John Malkovich's head. Cameron Diaz has a big Rosanna hair. John Malkovich is on everybody in a restaurant. Like these are all ideas that you're like,
Malkovich.
Okay, that's pretty fucking funny. Like you imagine them, you're imagining them in your head. It's funny, but the Charlie Kaufman and Spike Jonze's interpretation did not jibe with Dave, but I think the ideas are there.
Well, okay, so but that's what one of the things I love is this is an announcement movie. Like when I saw this, I was like, I know I've told this story before, but I was with my sister, and at the same moment, we just turned to each other and we're like, is this the best thing we've ever seen or the worst thing? Because we really don't know. But like,
both opinions are represented here.
What'd your sister think?
She loves it. She really loved it. We walked away just like, wow.
Oh, now Dave's conflicted.
Really, really special. It's, we knew Spike Jonze. Spike Jonze, for those of you who don't know, came up, same as David Fincher, actually. They were the two big 90s film director, or MTV, video
back
directors.
when MTV had music.
Right. And Spike Jonze was great. Anybody who watched MTV back in the day
I like his music videos.
Name some of the videos, because these were all some of my favorites.
So he did Beastie Boys Sabotage is awesome. Weezer's Buddy Holly. In fact, he did all the Weezer videos. He did, do you remember that video? I think it was
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, he did.
Did he do that? Fatboy Slim?
Yeah,
I love that video.
Yeah, and I think it might be Praise You. I remember the video and not the song. How's that? But where he's like, there's a breakdancing troupe in front of a movie theater, and it's all live, and he plays the choreographer, and he even showed up to the MTV Video Awards pretending to be this choreographer. No,
I don't.
Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun.
Yeah. So anyway, he was great. He's a great visual storyteller. I used to have a DVD that just had his videos on it, actually. He's great. And then Charlie Kaufman, I didn't know. I mean, the dude was a writer on Get a Life with
oh my God, I love that
Chris
show
Elliott?
at the time.
Yes.
I love that show.
I loved it too. Dave, go back and watch an episode now. It's really, really disheartening, because I was like, I love this show. It's great. And I watched one. I was like, oh, this show fucking sucks.
I also loved the movie he did, Cabin Boy, which David Letterman was in. I'm sure I would hate it now. But.
Okay, so everybody in the audience, just think of that as you're listening to all of Dave's criticism.
So he went.
In the Angry Birds movie.
So Charlie Kaufman was like this really, really strong voice and it just was. I liked that accent immediately, and I was just amazed that movie could get made. It was low budget and still
like a loud New Yorker accent.
Yeah, I love it. So anyway, Craig is a puppeteer, and there's a lot about this movie's really ahead of its time. The way it focuses on everyone's obsession with being somebody else, and I just want 15 minutes to be somebody else.
Yeah, I'd like that if the movie actually said something.
Well, it does say something, actually.
You go, Bonnie.
Go ahead. Wait, enlighten me.
So I'm almost done.
I thought it was a nihilistic shit show.
You're not almost done. You're not even to the inciting incident.
It's not nihilistic at all. And okay, so Craig is a puppeteer, and he basically needs to get in control of this body in Malkovich. And there's a lot about gender fluidity. And again, this is 20 years old, right? This is way ahead of its time. And so eventually Craig gets a hold, and this is like a celebration dance. Really, this dance is not much different than Joker's dance down the steps in Joker.
Because everybody who got in charge of Malkovich before was kicked out after 15 minutes. They're ejected into a roadside in New Jersey, which is funny to me.
And it was the same dance that he had done before with the puppet. So I'm going to turn it to Bonnie now, who you'll listen to.
I'll listen to Bonnie.
I think the movie, the dance was actually really, was like a pivotal moment in the movie, because I think this was about how art gets seduced by money and falls into commercialism. And I think
You know, everyone can see you, Sean. I just want you to know that.
No, the box was on Bonnie at the time.
No. While people are watching live, they see all 4 boxes. So fuck you, buddy.
Okay. So our studio watching live can see my nipples. Who cares?
I just want to make sure you don't whip your dick out and start doing another puppet show.
I think there's a show for that. I've heard it.
Go on.
So yeah, so it's really about, like, I didn't think it was a comedy. I thought it was kind of a tragedy. I think that the dance that he does in the middle of the story is kind of like his turning point in terms of completely selling out. And it's also the point at which Maxine, the girl that he's been pursuing this whole time, it's like he's this pure artist who's so disconnected from the whole how you sell yourself and what your audience is and what people want, that he's doing like puppet shows which is like a very childish medium, right? But he's doing these like erotic puppet shows with like Eloise and Abelard, which are like
filled with longing and like desperation.
He's like handling all these very adult themes in a very childish way because he has a child's perspective on them, but he really wants to be super successful. So
yeah, that's worth it pointing out too, because right, Bonnie, his character is completely arrested, which is why he's like telling Maxine that he loves her 10 seconds after meeting her.
Well, he loves her because she represents the business world that he thinks is going to make him successful. So he's pursuing her this whole time, and like she's totally disinterested in him. She's like, "You play with puppets, you're a child, you're totally boring." And so the dance at the middle, where he's basically doing the same dance in John Malkovich's body that at the very beginning he did with a puppet, is his dance of disillusionment and despair. But because he now has like all the trappings of John Malkovich's success, he's got her attention, and now she watches him do this dance, and she finally gets how she can exploit him. And so she says, "Oh, I get it. Playing with puppets is not about playing with dolls, it's about playing with people." And like that's the turning point where she starts to say, "Okay, you're not just this loser who's chasing me, you're someone I can actually make money off of."
And it had to look like farcical in the way that it did, because it couldn't look serious. Like,
well, I think it can be a tragedy, because I agree with Bonnie. Like classically, it's a tragedy.
Oh,
but
sure.
But it's comedic. It's a comedic tragedy.
Because
okay,
it's farcical.
I will concede that point. Bonnie has won me over. I still didn't like it, but yeah.
Okay, yes. I love how Bonnie can do the work
Major
that we just
victory.
can't. I know, this is crazy. Welcome to the fourth member of the show.
She's not going to make me like the movie, though.
I do this to myself. I was describing this a few weeks ago when I gave Uncut Gems as my something cool, but I was like, it was more of my meta reaction because I actually didn't like the movie. And then I was like, but this happens every time. Even if I don't like something, if it has merit, I'll start to, I hear Bonnie in my head. It's not literally Bonnie's voice, but I have my own internal, critic who's telling me like how I should interpret it.
I was never even really there. Johnny, did you like that more after?
Similarly, yeah. I mean, once I start either thinking about it and having an internal discussion, or in a format like this, when we're having a discussion, usually points are raised that make me go, okay, well, to Dave's point, still didn't really like it, but tally a point for artistic intent or something like that.
Yeah, I like anything that does, I mean, as a studio, this is kind of our ethos, which is why like I feel a little betrayed when Dave is just like hostile towards something like this, which is such a strong voice that is saying important things and doing it in an intelligent way that isn't like how anybody else is making the same fucking movie over and over and over again, and that it holds up 20 years later. I want Dave to be able to enjoy that a little more because it's worth it.
Yeah, I appreciate I like Terry Gilliam movies that are quite different from the mainstream, and they're odd and they don't have a lot.
He's a weird cat.
You know what? That's really funny, Dave. That you
didn't he do like Videodrome? Or no, that was somebody else. That was Cronenberg. Brazil. Yeah, I get those confused.
Yeah, Dave. I just in the outline right now that I'm working on to turn over to Bonnie for notes. I am trying to decide between a Kaufman and a Gilliam tone, which is kind of funny. That both
I might like to do a Kaufman, Sean.
I would love to do a Kaufman with you.
I think that might be cool.
In fact, if we didn't have such a stacked queue right now,
it'd be cool to do a year of tribute. One a month.
Yeah, dude, I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
If you and I personally, Johnny, weren't so stacked up right now on stuff, I would actually, the outline I'm working on now, I'll tell you what it is when we talk afterwards. I would actually turn it over to you. I think it's what we do best, and it is a kind of a Kaufman-y type thing.
Right. So I'll get on with my main reason for not liking the movie.
It was written by Charlie Kaufman.
No, not that. No, because I like Punch Drunk Love. Didn't love it because I don't.
Oh, did he do Punch Drunk Love? That's
no, that was P.T. Anderson.
Oh, okay then.
Well, that's why. That's
okay. What else?
I don't know how I feel about Upstream Color, but come to think of it, I did enjoy Star Wars.
What else has Charlie done? Adaptation, which
Synecdoche, New York.
Never saw.
Obviously, Eternal Sunshine, which you said you did like.
I love that.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think of it's Anomalisa. That's what it's called.
Oh, that's right.
The cartoon one, yeah, I haven't watched that.
Yeah, it's
You told me it was depressing as hell. So
it is. I want to see it again. And
that's how I felt. Okay, that's how I felt about. Okay, and I would like to challenge myself to rewatch Silence of the Lambs because I typically like that sort of movie, but I was left numb when I left the theater. And that's how I felt after watching it. The first half of it was just so. Like,
wait, hold on. You're bringing up Silence of the Lambs not because of Charlie Kaufman, right? Because my mind is looking for a connection, and I'm like,
well, they both were so bleak and depressing to me that it affected my mood. I was in a bad mood after I watched.
He didn't like There Will Be Blood, which seems like.
But what's so interesting, Dave, is that you most of what you seem to consume, and certainly most of what you seem to produce, feels like it could be described with those same adjectives.
There's always a ray of hope. There's always usually, I'm not short stories so much, but in my stories, there's a ray of hope. There's people that are trying to do the right thing. Even
Dave writes really dark shit, but he doesn't write tragedies. Bonnie and I were talking about tragedies just last week, and she said, "You know what? Maybe I need to write a tragedy because."
I would even take a tragedy done right, like Breaking Bad's a tragedy. But
didn't you like The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Or anything that Frank Darabont's involved with?
I like The Walking Dead.
Yeah, but
okay. Because that is that feels unrelentingly and unapologetically grim to me. I feel like he's trying to destroy souls.
But it's a people, okay? It's people being challenged, and they're basically, some of them are good, not all of them. And I like the conflict. I don't like this story specifically because everyone in this story is detestable. Every single one of them. Cameron Diaz's character is the least of the detestable, but everybody else in the movie was just fucking detestable.
But
they were all
detestable
selfish,
characters in
greedy.
a tragedy work.
But I got to identify with them in some way. Something I have to identify with. I hated everyone. I hated the house they were in with all the chaos with the animals and
You're
stuff.
Supposed to.
I just fucking hate it. It's like the beginning of Joe versus Volcano.
This is like an ink blot, because the things that bothered you and made this movie feel hopeless to you are circumstantial things around the characters, and that's just a really interesting lens for me to see.
Well, no, their actions as well.
It's like he could probably smell or feel the dander with all the pets, and it's fucked with Dave's tics.
It's a claustrophobia and relentless, just meanness. I don't like mean people in movies. Maybe that's it.
Oh, it's so interesting because I'm not fucking with you. I genuinely do not have this reaction, but do have it to other movies.
So, and when he pulls a gun on his wife and locks her in the dog cage, I was about to turn the movie off because I fucking hate men like that. Because I've had friends.
But
let me fucking finish a goddamn thought.
Damnation.
I just want to say I agree with Dave. I think the movie actually would have been more powerful if I had cared more about the main character at the beginning, so that I was actually really mourning his fall instead of going like, well, he got what he deserved.
He's a piece of shit from the get-go. Well, okay, 5 minutes in, he's fine. But the minute he's like ready to fucking cheat on his wife with this woman, he doesn't even fucking know. It's not like he fell in love with her or something. No, there's nothing
redeeming. He decided that he's like, I love this person. I love you.
It's pathetic. And I've seen too many people, including one of my best friends growing up, who was killed by a fucking loser like this. I hate loser guys that fucking are abusive to women and like just monsters. I hate that shit more than anything. And this guy was a fucking monster. He was a monster. And the woman he fell for, Maxine, she was a monster on a different level. None of these people had more than, they were all very superficial characters. They weren't very deep at all. I mean, might be a couple hidden layers, but you really had to work to get at it. They were just shitty characters. I didn't give a fuck about. They were not nuanced. They were not layered. The movie, the one cool thing that almost happened in a movie where John Malkovich goes into his own hole, where he goes into his own head.
That was fun.
I was looking forward to like what would happen, but they made it stupidly just fucking ridiculous.
Wait, that was intentional too. I think though. I think they were basically trying to say that when you get so attached to like your ego and your public persona and like caring about what people think of you, you become a narcissist.
I got that. I would have liked to have seen it done different.
Scene? How would you have handled that scene, Dave? Because that is my favorite scene in the movie.
I would have made it. So this comes down to taste, and I can't say my taste is better or worse. This is just what appeals to me. I would have made it more nightmarish, more just less goofy, more nightmarish, more like just fucking horrifying, and you can't get out of it.
You don't think a room full of Malkoviches, some of them with like cleavage, is nightmarish?
It reminded me too much of just goofy shit. And like this movie could have done some really thoughtful things, and they could have really talked about the value of life, which they completely demean. I mean, the closing shots of the movie where they show the daughter, the little girl swimming in the pool, and you know her life is fucked when these people all jump in her head and ruin it. Like the life to these people is fucking meaningless, and fuck all of them. That's the feeling I got from the movie. I was depressed when I watched it and just hopeless when I finished it. It was just, there was nothing uplifting in any way whatsoever about it. Nothing I could hang on to. Just it's gonna be shit, and it's always gonna be shit. Fuck it.
So like 0 stars.
Zero stars.
Serbian film was less depressing than this movie. I mean, it really was, because I got to say, when I was done watching it, you guys can't see this if you're not on video, but I was just like, and it was just like somebody had shot a bunch of children in front of me. I couldn't work for the rest of the day. I was totally incapacitated. Robin came and found me crying in the shower with it. Terrifying.
Compared to some of the things that you watch and or write, I just don't understand your reaction to this particular movie at all.
I actually feel I totally understand it.
When I see something like this, I mean, the first time I was not a storyteller. I was still 10 years away from writing the first thing I ever wrote. And I feel then what I feel now, which is the glee of possibilities in storytelling. That these people told a story that no one had told before, and
fine, they get a star on the
I would actually like to hear, Bonnie, I'd love to hear your overall feelings about the movie, because you've given us some analysis.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I'm curious.
I feel like I more appreciated this movie than enjoyed it.
Oh, that's a perfect way of framing it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I can appreciate the art of it, by the way. But go ahead.
Yeah. It was like a really great allegory for how to fail as an artist while succeeding as an artist. And there were some moments that I loved. Like, I absolutely love the scene where he walks in and starts talking to the secretary when he's applying for the job. And the communication disconnect, it just like screams like how much difficulty he has talking to anybody who's outside of his head, right? And anybody who lives in the real world where people are doing practical things. And I really loved what they did actually with Cameron Diaz's character. And it's not just because she's the least objectionable person, which she kind of was, but I feel like for an allegory, you don't want characters who are like deeply nuanced and sympathetic. You want them to be symbolic of something. And I love that the things that she got out of being in John Malkovich's head were not like all about fame and fortune and acclaim. It's like they were super careful not to ever have anyone in his head when he was like having his ass kissed or getting an award. It was always like,
he was eating toast.
Right. It was super mundane. So it was like, it was not about like everybody else who was in his head was not appreciating it because they wanted to know what it was like to be famous, like the main character did. It was about like just seeing all these beautiful, simple pleasures from somebody else's point
But
of view.
wasn't it fun how there were a few scenes where nobody knew what movies he was in?
Yes,
I love the
that was
jewel
awesome
theme.
too.
When you play the jewel theme.
It's like I've never been in a jewel heist movie.
And I did like him as an actor, willing to poke fun at himself, and like so I did like that. I did like some of the the one where like a few people went into his head at the same time, and they saw like him as a kid being picked on and stuff. I would have liked more of that. I love that part.
When I watched that, I was watching that after I saw your Slack rant. And I was like, how could Dave not love this scene?
Well, I hadn't seen that part yet. I did like that part. There were parts of it I liked. So,
well, I the funny thing is I started thinking like, I was like, oh, this cab driver's a piece of shit. Like John Malkovich was in, and it just kind of stopped. And like, it took me a while to remember Dangerous Liaisons. I'm like, I know I had the same reaction as the cab driver. Well, lots of stuff. He's been in lots of stuff. I don't know, this or that.
When he's eating dinner and the guy comes up to him and talks about how his cousin has special needs, like that whole scene is very funny. And I don't know, they're the absurdist comedy, which I think really rubbed Dave the wrong way, really endeared me to the movie, because it's in the same way that Johnny and I try to write, where no matter what we're doing, we're trying to disarm the reader with humor. And I thought that Kaufman and Jones both did that in their own way.
Well, the straight-faced acceptance of weird shit is, I think, a definite hallmark of Kaufman and certainly this movie. So, for instance, when Craig first goes into the 7.5 floor, they have to stop the elevator between 7 and 8. Like the alarm goes off, and there's a crowbar hanging on the back thing that they have to use to pry open the door and crawl out. And any normal person, what the fuck? Like, get people in the elevator, he'd be like, I'm not getting off here, but they just accept it.
It's handled with a weary exhaustion. Like, this is just the way that life is.
Yeah, I'm exhausted enough with real life.
Volcano. Dave mentioned Joe versus the Volcano. It actually has the same feel of just like, okay, this is weird.
Don't make me watch that movie again.
Resolve to. That's such a stupid movie. It's so.
Yeah, Jen makes a good point here, which is she says, "I thought the claustrophobia of the 7.5 floor and the apartment full of animals was really masterfully done."
That's just me personally. I can't watch that.
But that's it. The main character's life was uncomfortable to inhabit in so many ways, which is true. He did what he did. Fine. I didn't like it. It annoyed the shit out of me.
Well, Dave agreed with Bonnie's statement, appreciated the movie, didn't enjoy it, which nails the way that I feel about a lot of movies.
So I'm not saying Charlie Kaufman sucks. I'm just saying he wrote a couple of movies that are not for me, and that's on me. It's not on him. He should have all the success he wants. I'm not trashing.
Wow, somebody got to Dave between acts of this podcast.
I know, it's wonderful.
You put him on a pedestal that I don't think he quite belongs. So,
Bonnie, do you feel like he does, whether the enjoyment of that movie or not, how do you feel that as a writer, as a storyteller, do you feel that he deserves those types of accolades?
Yeah, I think he's really good. I think the way that he structured the movie in terms of that could have been like one of the most painfully slow movies you've ever seen, but he kept the scenes like these incredibly short, tight scenes all the way through. So you're always jumping perspectives, and you're always just getting enough conflict to see like, okay, something changed, now we're moving. So I actually really appreciated the pacing of the movie and how the different things that he cut between. There were times when
I warned you years ago I was going to stop doing this show if you kept doing that.
There's my out. I'm out. Finally.
There were a lot of things in this movie, and this speaks to this sort of thing I started to call an accent earlier, that like they were played straight and straight-ish, and maybe they worked for me in the movie, like the humor subtly, or maybe they didn't, but they were all the things that I could just say, like if I repeated them, if I were telling you guys about it and you hadn't seen it, that would have made me laugh. Like at the beginning when there's that big art exhibition by the master puppeteer, and he's the puppeteer that everybody loves. He's the top puppeteer, and he's doing this like 4-story puppet off a bridge with these big things. Like that's fucking hilarious. And then John Malkovich abandons his acting career and becomes this puppet celebrity, and they have all these magazine covers shooting at you, Master of the Strings and stuff like that.
And I seriously cannot think of a better actor from the title of the movie to the execution than John Malkovich. There's just something really genius about the title being John Malkovich.
I want to know the story of him finding out about the pitch, about him agreeing to
Actually,
it.
I know that story, or a vague version of that story, basically. So
somebody have photos of him giving blowjobs to orca whales.
Well, okay. I want to know if he thought it was hilarious right away. I want to know if there were alternatives. It could be Being John Malkovich.
He thought it was weird, and he didn't want it, but he was like, okay, this is interesting. And he
so agreed. Kaufman imagined it only as Malkovich
only as Malkovich, and Malkovich is like, I'm not really famous enough to do this, and he's like, no, you're exactly famous enough. And what's funny is both Malkovich and the production company, I forget who had it first, suggested it was Being Tom Cruise, who was the
that's so much worse.
Right.
That I would have watched.
Right, but they're like, you're missing the point. It's Being John Malkovich. They finally.
They did not get it. That would have been a terrible idea.
Yeah,
Tom would not have played ball.
It took a long time. I forget who the original friend was that was suggested, but it wasn't Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen is.
Oh my God, Charlie Sheen in that ending flash forward where he's
with the ball,
the comb over.
Yeah, they call him like.
Can we do a Being David Wright?
That would be amazing.
Can you imagine what person would want to go through that door?
A lot of people. I would go through that door. I would totally.
I'd go through that door all day long.
I totally would go through that door, even if it was just to eat toast.
French fries.
Yes, Bonnie.
Actually, I have a weird thing that I'm curious if you guys have seen Get Out. And when I told Peter that I was watching this movie because we were going to talk about it, he said that he had just seen some other video online that was like a film critique thing. And
I've heard of this.
There's the Get Out. There's a fan theory that Get Out is a sequel to Being John Malkovich. And apparently somebody asked Jordan Peele, like, is that true? And he said, yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah,
but I haven't seen Get Out yet, and I didn't want to bias my opinion on John Malkovich by seeing Get Out.
No, there's no way it's a sequel, but I see why people say that.
That was good.
Harrison.
I do too, and that is amazing. But Bonnie, you should see Get Out. You will like Get Out. I think you'll have a lot of problems with Us, so you can just skip that one. but Get Out totally works. Yeah.
Oh, Us is not good, John? I was thinking about.
It has some really good moments to it. There's a lot that I like about it. I think that Jordan Peele is a good director. I'd
More of a downer.
I'd like to see what he's going to do next. I feel like Us is an example of a sophomore movie, even though I know it's not his second movie. But like the one does really, really well, and they're like, okay, you go do your thing, and then it's not quite as good. The ending really falls apart for me. There's just too many things that I have to take and at face value. And it's like what you're saying with accents, Johnny. Mm-hmm. I feel like Charlie Kaufman does such a great job of making his absurdity believable right up front that I buy anything that happens for the whole entire movie, including when people are like, oh yeah, when it comes to puppets, John Malkovich is just the best. And like, it's very serious, but funny. Where in Us, it sets it up as a very straight movie, and then the punchline is so ridiculous. I'm just like, yeah, I don't believe that's stupid. Dave, did you see it?
Which one?
Us?
Yes.
What do you think of the end?
I thought unrealistic. It was a downer. I didn't enjoy the movie overall.
Yeah. So
I liked it until the end.
So. Agreed. Yeah, I liked Us until the end, but the end for me was a bad enough ending that it undermined the movie. And
that's devil's advocate for me.
Yes, and I tried devil's advocate again, but the ending didn't change, nor did my opinion of the movie.
Wait, you're talking for you. You're not repeating things I've said. So you
no, I did. I saw Devil's Advocate in the theater, also with
bad
Megan.
enough that the ending ruins an otherwise great movie.
Yes, because I really did enjoy it.
Although I thought the same thing. Second way through, I was like, "Oh, I got this wrong. This movie's really, really good. It's going to be better this time." Nope.
No, totally. What's funny about that movie too is that that's the first thing I ever saw Charlize Theron in, and I remember thinking, she is too beautiful for this role. Like that was the thought that I had.
She must die.
No, it's a weird thought to have had, right? Because it's Hollywood. Everybody's too good looking for their roles. But she was like really.
And she came out in Monster.
Stunning. No, but I remember reading an interview with her about 10 years later, maybe 10 years ago, where she was saying when she first started working, she couldn't get any roles because people would say you're too good looking for that role.
I have that same problem.
Yeah. So anyway, I just think that's interesting because she like all actresses are typically good looking, but she just kind of tilted it where her casting was distracting in that movie.
Was it like the uncanny valley in video games where it's too realistic so that people don't like it or move?
Well, his character is this like struggling lawyer, and she's
I've seen it. Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I didn't buy that they were together.
I have a friend who loved that movie.
We've officially moved really far from Being John Malkovich, so we want to circle back in.
All right, yeah. Closing thoughts on John Malkovich.
Please.
Dave has some closing thoughts.
You'll never ever watch it again.
Not unless I have to. I don't know. No, I did. No. I suppose if you front load it and said, "Oh, all these characters suck. You're gonna hate them all," maybe I could have watched it. But no. Okay. The acting was great. I'll give it that. The casting was great. All of the technical things were all good. I didn't like a lot of the music, but again, personal choice. And it failed to have anybody I could connect with, and it also failed to really have the philosophical sort of examination of what you would do if you were in somebody's head and whether or not it's really like, I don't know. They don't really, nobody really suffers except the one guy for it. And all the other people are rewarded at the end for doing a horrible thing and basically continuing to live in the girl after John Malkovich dies.
Do they? Oh, I guess they do, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like realizing there was collateral damage when they blew up the Death Star. You're like, oh, and that just ruined some shit right there.
I don't know. There's like, I would describe his work as like fairy tales of despair. Like they just always kind of have.
That's more Guillermo del Toro.
Oh yeah, I feel like they're all a portrait of himself. Like this is the world he's living in. Kaufman.
Oh,
like he's clearly not a
absolutely.
happy dude at all.
But I also think that just as an artist, I would imagine that there's something that Dave could connect to a little bit there, like the amount of self-hate that especially about his work that Kaufman clearly displays.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are elements of that, but it wasn't enough to win me over and like the characters.
Dave, what made you like Adaptation? Because Adaptation is so self-loathing and kind of.
I don't think he likes Adaptation though.
I don't remember it well enough.
I thought you said you did like it.
I remember seeing it, and I don't remember if I liked it or not.
Oh well, then that ruins my question. So,
Bonnie, how do you feel about Adaptation?
I haven't seen Adaptation.
Oh,
you'd like Adaptation.
Don't make that the next movie. I need a buffer.
No, how about this? We announced the next movie. It was in yesterday's meeting, so you can just watch that video.
No, you can fucking tell me what it is.
It's Watchmen.
The movie?
Yeah.
Or the show?
No, the show.
Oh, okay.
All right, phone call coming in.
The show, because that's really one for you. I know how much you would love to talk about that. Bonnie really wants to talk about it too. I'm on the last 2 episodes, and
so Johnny has to watch it now.
Johnny,
I may sit that one out because I don't really feel like subscribing to yet another service and trying to find all the time to watch it.
Yeah, you can do the 7-day free trial. Just binge it.
Yeah, I don't think he's interested, but he can just kind of.
I am interested, but not on a quick timeline and an out.
Well, you want to do it the time after next? Then you have 2 months.
I'd better not commit. I mean, we could do that. We could.
I don't
want to
wait that long.
Why don't you guys
forget.
just do it? And well, I guess I'm the recorder. But if I didn't have to record, I wouldn't even have to come. Then I could get a day off.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out. But for sure, we're watching Watchmen. Bonnie's already seen it. Dave's already seen it. I'm almost done with it, and I think it would be a great discussion. It's. I want to go out on a limb and say right now, as far as television, it might be the best exposition delivery system I've ever seen in a show. But Bonnie's nodding. Yeah, you think so too?
Absolutely. I'm just like blown away by how skillfully they give you information without explaining anything.
Yes.
I love that show for that.
Yes. And we'll save it for the conversation. But I heard so many glowing things from both of you, but I always hear glowing things about shows, right? But it's just exceeded. Every episode has done something that I've never seen before. And
did you finish it yet?
No, I have 2 episodes left.
Oh, okay.
I have 2 episodes, and
I'll be curious what you think of the ending.
I don't even care. Like, I don't care. I didn't care that Lost didn't.
In the last episode, Al Pacino starts saying "shoo-ba-doo-boo."
Yes.
All right, so Watchmen it is. All right, well then, I guess that's it. We talked about Being John Malkovich.
All right. So, well, that was a weird ending. Okay, so let's. Thanks for watching, and
yet it was better than that ending.
Yeah, if you have suggestions and stuff too for things we could watch, just send them in. Or in general, you can try and pitch ideas for the show. So thanks everybody for listening. Serbian film, better than this, more hopeful than this movie.
Human Centipede.
Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.